The weather outside has gotten colder, and it is now time to winterize or blow out your sprinklers. My name is Jay, and I'm going to show you how this is done. Now there's a few things that you're going to need. You're going to need an air compressor. You're going to need an adapter hose, which I will show you shortly, to connect the air into your sprinkler system. And it's usually helpful to have a helper turn on and off the valves. Pretty much what we're going to do, the lines right now are filled with water, we're going to fill them with air. And I'll show you how to introduce that. But before you go and mess with anything, it's probably a good idea to put your system on test mode and just walk around outside and make sure all the zones are working. So let's do that first. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is just change all of these values from 20 or 25 to 2 minutes. Make sure you write down what the settings of each zone are on yours. Here's 1 through 7 that I use. So I'm going to set those all up to 2 minutes. And then on this you hit manual, enter, and there we go. This is a clear indication it's time to blow out your sprinklers. Okay, I have 2 heads in the flower beds here, as well as a connection that goes to my drip emitter. And that doesn't seem to be pushing much out right now. It does drip, but it's very little. That's not a problem. That'll be adjusted next year. And over here, we have another head and another one in there somewhere. And over here, there's a couple of heads. They just shut down for the next zone. And here we are. 1, 2, 3. So these are working. You can hear there is some air in the line, which is normal. Here's another good reason you want to check your heads. Normally you have these on in the overnight hours, and it so seems that this one is leaking. So that's going to have to be addressed when it gets warm again. So I'll make a mental note of that. We'll go check the one out there. Yeah, this one too is leaking a bit. I'm not going to be terribly concerned about it right now because the weather is pretty cold. So it's possible they're not making as great of a seal as they normally do because things have contracted. And our next zone is coming up. So zone 3 looks like it works. These are a lot harder to tell if they're leaking at all because they're all on the grass. So you can get in there and look at them closely to find out. But if they are leaking, they're at least helping to water the grass. Our next zone is working. There's one right by the fence post and right here. Now I've already moved my lawn ornament out of the way, which normally lives right over here, as you can see the dead spot. I know one of these is leaking, this one right here, but really this zone is put on twice, maybe 3 times a summer, because the car is normally here. So this isn't a big deal. I was aware that this one was leaking already. This one, while a little bit overgrown, did have a little overspray here, but that's right when it starts up, so that's not even any cause for concern because there's no puddling here. So you may see that when you test yours out, but there's not going to be, unless it's a prolonged thing, there's nothing to worry about. And this one used to leak, but I replaced that, or rather replaced the seal in it. I'll put a link to the video showing how to do that in the video description if you're interested. These are Hunter PGP heads. And in the backyard, it looks like the heads back here are working. We have one here. There's one that's up high like that, and one over here. And here for the last zone, we have a head here. There's one up against the fence there, one in the center, and there is also one way down through there. Okay, now that you've tested your system out and made a note of what might need to be done in the spring, you can go ahead and shut your water off to your sprinkler system. Now you should have a valve inside your house for that. Here's my valve inside the house. I just turned it from this direction down to that direction. When it sits parallel to the pipe, it's on. When it's perpendicular like this, it's off. Now that you've shut your valve inside the house, go and open up the valve you have outside the house here so that you allow air into the line so you can drain it out properly. Now this has a little drain cock on it, so we're going to put a bucket up under here and open that up and let it drain out. There you go, just let that drain out. You may have a different valve setup. Everybody's plumbing is a bit different, but the ideas are the same. So let that drain out now. It's now time to introduce air into the system. You will need some way to connect your air compressor up to your hose bib. And this is what I came up with. This is just a plain old washing machine hose. I cut the end off of it and put that on. Okay, and the way I did this is I simply got two air fittings. One of them has male threads, that's this one down here, which screws into this one with female threads. Some of us may know about that. You connect those together and lop off the end of your washing machine hose. You can save that. You could actually make two of them if you wanted. So these two screw together, and this diameter is just right with a little bit of persuasion. You can see how it's just larger here to fit in there. You can use something like some dish soap, or even heat it with maybe a heat gun or something like that, and then put a nice hose clamp on it. So there's my hose connected, which goes into my air supply, and over here you'll notice I have all kinds of other stuff. None of this is necessary, but it sure helps the job. This is an inline regulator. It's just set to full pressure. There is a lot of controversy as far as how much pressure you should put through the system. Personally, I say give it everything your compressor has to make sure you blow everything out. Others are going to say, no, you'll damage the lines, you'll bust the head, stuff like that. I've never had a problem in over 8 years doing it this way. This blue hose comes from my air compressor. That's located about 50 feet away, and that's why it's very handy to have a gauge here so I know how much air the tank has roughly left. And an inline valve, well, that's going to make it a lot easier just to turn the air on and off. You can use that valve there also, but this just makes it a lot quicker. I had my helper go and turn on zone 1. You can also go and open up your green sprinkler box that you'll have outside and manually turn the valve, but personally I like doing it electrically. That way at least one person gets to stay inside where it's warm, and you get to ensure that the valve's open and closed properly that way. I'm going to turn on the air now. With zone 1 on, it's going to start blasting the heads in here, so I'm going to hit that and pretty much get out of here. And already you can hear and see the air. You want to just go through your entire system, each zone. The compressor just kicks back on. We'll come down here, and now you'll get this mist here. You want to let this go for a while, because the general idea is you don't want to see any mist, or you want to see very, very little. These are little water droplets that are still in the pipes that you're trying to force out. So you want to keep dumping air in there as long as possible. Eventually you'll run out of air. Now how fast you'll run out of air depends on how big your property is, and also depends on how big your compressor is. General rule of thumb is the bigger compressor the better. You're going to want one that's probably, for an average size house of maybe 1,500 square feet, you're going to want a compressor that's probably 8 to 10 gallons at a minimum. You can see that head just popped down, and that one did as well. And there's one at the end there that's also going to pop down momentarily. And that means we're out of air. So if I come back here, you'll notice, oh, we're just about empty. So we're going to go and close our valve off, and we're going to let our compressor recharge the tank until it shuts off. Like I said, the larger the compressor, the better. It's only going to minimize the amount of time it's going to take for this entire job to be done. Typically this job takes me 45 minutes or so. That's all it takes once a year. No big deal. My compressor is 15 gallons and I have an auxiliary 7-gallon tank, which gives me a total of 22 gallons. That's more than plenty for what I need for this. Our tank is recharged, so we'll hit it one more time on the same zone. Should get mostly air, and you'll see we just have a little bit of mist left. Not really a lot, but we're just trying to get out as much air as we can. It's not imperative that you remove every single solitary little drop in there. We're just trying to get all the water out of the low spots. Normally, this would be a cross-section of the pipe. If that's filled all of the way to the top, and there's no escape for that, if that freezes, the pipe can burst. So what we're trying to do is minimize that, so it's just at the top of my thumb here, just like a little puddle at the very bottom of the pipe. And by doing that, if it freezes, it's not going to cause any problems. Now that's pretty much run out of air for the second blow on the first zone. There was barely any water coming out, so I'd say that that's well enough blown out. Now we can go on to the second zone. Now we'll go ahead and shut that off and let the tank recover. Okay, the tank is refilled. I've had my helper turn off the first zone and turn on the second. We'll apply air, and there we are, blowing out this zone. This again is what you want to see. You want to get all this mist out as best you can. Zone 2, second blast. Most of the water is out, but we're just looking to get as much as possible. No need to go crazy, just the best you can, really. Okay, zone 2 is off and zone 3 is on now. So we'll let this one blow out, and in a moment we'll get air. Zone 3, second blast. And a couple of wisps coming out still, so we'll let that run through. Sometimes the pipes will sing as you hear. It's just an added bonus. Zone 4. You're over here. For a second blast. Zone 5. Zone 5, second blast. And even though I had a full tank on this one, they don't want to pop up. I've seen that happen before. Not to worry, just let them blow out anyway, they'll be fine. Time for zone 6. That's in the backyard, so I won't be able to give you a great shot of it, but here we go. Zone 6, second blast. And zone 7. Zone 7, second blast. Those are all the zones that I have, but don't stop there. While you're at it, winterize your garden hoses. You already have your air hose out. It only takes another minute or two. So we're just going to hook that up over here. The other end is disconnected from the spigot. And I'm going to run the backyard hose into the front here to hook into this so I can blow everything out in one shot. Okay, all that hose from the front ends here in the back. Let's blast all that out. And now we'll take the garden hose for a second blast. Just the residual bits of water that are in there. Just get out as much as you can. Okay, now that we're done with all of that, we can shut our sprinkler system outside spigot. And this also has a secondary valve, which I like to shut. And lastly, back inside, make sure you turn your system off. So that's the whole thing. That's all there is to it. You displace the water with air. Just hook it up to your air compressor, have somebody open the zones up and blast it all out. Just like I showed you. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons. That lets me know I did a good job making this video, and I can continue to provide them for you. Have a great day.